Hello and welcome back to Hollow Acres. In today's video, I am making baked beans. Specifically, baked beans that's going to last anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on how much we go through it, and also how many cans or jars of beans I can get out of this. So over here in my Instapot, I have cooked up 7.5 cups of Great Northern beans. I have already drained the water. I'm worried that they cooked a little bit too much. They're a little mushy. But also, as soon as I get the rest of the ingredients in the beans, including the liquids, it should even itself out. We're hoping for not mushy beans, but at this point. Here I have 2 packs of bacon, thick sliced, cut into about 1-inch strips. They're a little smaller than that, but I diced a bunch of bacon. I'm going to cook up this bacon, then I will be adding about 3 cups of diced onions after removing the bacon, and then get started on the sauce portion, which I think that while this is sizzling, I can go ahead and move on to that. These are all of the ingredients that I'm going to need to make the sauce. I have 3 6-ounce cans of tomato paste. Here I have ground black pepper. Over here I have brown sugar. I have 2 jars of chicken stock, coarse ground salt. I have 3 jars of molasses. I don't think I'll be using all of them, but I have them. Worcestershire sauce, minced garlic. Normally I would use fresh garlic, but I'm out, so minced garlic. And spicy brown mustard. Alternatively, you could use Dijon mustard, but we prefer the taste of the spicy brown. Here we have ketchup and apple cider vinegar with the mother. The next step is to take all of these ingredients, mix them together in my bowl that I am worried might not be big enough. Once all that is mixed up, I will then pour it onto the beans. We'll then add in the bacon and the cooked onions with the garlic. So the garlic isn't going in my sauce, it's going to be seared in the pan after the bacon is done. I'm going to be starting by adding in the tomato paste. This is 3/4 cup of ketchup. Also 3/4 cup of the apple cider vinegar. And 1.5 cups of the molasses. The bacon is done and needs to be pulled out, so what I am going to do is put it directly into the pot with the beans. In this same pot, I'm going to add my 3 cups of onions, and we're going to do 18 teaspoons of the minced garlic. There's about, I'm eyeballing it, that's about 2, 4, 6, and a heaping 18. Now we're going to let this saute while we finish our sauce. We're now going to move on to 6 tablespoons of the Worcestershire sauce. I'm eyeballing this as well. 1, 2, heaping 6. I think I'm going to need a bigger bowl. I'm now going to add 3 of the 3/4 cup of brown sugar. We are going to do 6 tablespoons of the spicy brown mustard. Like I said earlier, you can do Dijon mustard if you so prefer. 2, 3, 6. Now my camera died, so off camera I added cayenne pepper, ground black pepper, and sea salt. We're now going to take this over to our big pot of beans. And just to make sure I got all of it, I'm using a silicone spatula. The onions and garlic are well cooked down. I would definitely call this fragrant. We're going to move this to our pot as well.
Where'd the cookies go?
I haven't made any cookies.
No, that was like an oatmeal raisin in you.
Yeah, they're gone. Now I'm going to place the lid on. I'm going to turn it off of the warm, and I'm going to press the beans button for 5 minutes. Now these are gonna sit in the Instapot for about 5 minutes. It just needs to incorporate all of the flavors into the beans. Whenever this is done, I will be then ladling it into my jars, to which I need to wash a lot of jars, 15 or so. I will then be taking those jars, putting them in the pressure canner and canning them for, I think it was 30 minutes. I'll have to double check. Now the reason that I chose to use the Instapot for these beans, you don't have to, you can do it on the stovetop. But the only large, like really large pots that I have are stainless steel. Whenever I cook beans in them, they stick to the bottom. I don't care for that. That's just like a me issue, if you will. So I prefer to do them in the Instapot. It's all in one thing anyway. Yes, I just made a mess all over the place and I have to clean that up, but it's just this, you know? It seems easier for me. I'm gonna go ahead and get washing my jars, cleaning off of my counter, and get the pressure cooker set up. Over here I have my pressure canner set up. Because I have a glass top stove, I cannot do any pressure canning on the stove. So I have this dual cast iron hot plate, I suppose you would call it. In my canner, I have about 2 inches of water in here. To figure out the 2 inches, what I do is I use my finger. I'll put it down as I'm filling it up with the water, and it'll come above my knuckle, and that's about 2 inches. That's all the water that you want in the bottom of your pressure canner. I am just going to place the lid on top, keeping the water hot. And I am moving on now to ladling the beans into the jars. Here I have washed 18 jars. I have my canner funnel. These are still hot, freshly washed, so I'm just going to turn them over. The majority of these jars are regular mouth, though I do have 2 wide mouth. These are the divider plates that will go in between the jars as they go to can, so I can double stack them. And this is my weight for my pressure canner. Here are our beans. They look good, they smell good, they taste good. I feel good about these. As long as they don't get mushy as we're canning them, we should be golden. Now the process to filling these jars is very easy. You simply ladle the beans into the jar and you leave a 1-inch headspace. Now earlier I said that I'm going to have to can these for 30 minutes. I was completely wrong. It's 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I'm going to leave about a 1-inch headspace, and that is right about, ooh, there-ish. So right up to the I guess the head or the lip of the jar, whatever you want to call it. When scooping, I am sure to get a full scoop, including the juice that is in there. All right, I have my pressure canner all loaded up. I was able to can up 14 jars, 14 and a half. So now this is a waiting process. This has to not only come up to temperature, but I need it for it to vent out of the vent for 10 minutes. So with my setup, it takes about an hour, hour and a half to get to where it's venting the steam. Then I'll set my timer for 10 minutes. At that point, when my 10 minutes of venting the steam is over, I will then take my weight, place it on top, wait for this to come up to pressure. My pressure would be 11 psi, and then I would have to watch it like a hawk for an hour and 15 minutes. The recipe that I'm using is coming out of this Complete Guide to Pressure Canning book. It is by Diane Dervaux. I will leave a link down below in the description for this. I use this for pressure canning more than probably any of my other preserving books. I really like the recipes in this one. I have decided to triple this home-style baked beans recipe, which is what you just made with me. It is on page 68. Don't know if that was pertinent or relevant information, but there you have it. So as of now, it is 4:16. I am estimating that I will be done with this probably between 8:30 and 9 o'clock because it takes so long. I will be back with you shortly to keep you updated on how this goes. You will place the weight on it with me. I don't really have anything else to say. I'll see you soon. All right, the pressure canner has been venting for about 10 minutes to ensure that it is, and this really helps me because my cabinets are black. I can see the smoke against the cabinet. I've been paying attention to that for 10 minutes. It's been about 12. It's totally fine. So now I'm going to take my weight here, and all I'm going to do is place it on top. I say place it, but you got to push it down a little bit. Now I'm going to pay attention to my dial. It is going to continue to rise, and once it hits around 10, that's when I start my timer. My pressure is 11 psi, but 10 is fine. We're going to kind of have to rock through it, really, is what's going to happen. So as it continues to heat and get to its stop it. As it continues to heat and gets up to temperature, to pressure, I guess it would be considered pressure for this, but as it does that, I need to be adjusting the heat. I have this on high heat. If it goes up to 12, I need to lower the heat. So it's kind of just, I really have to baby this thing for the next hour and 15 minutes. So right now it is 5:35. I put everything in here at 4:16. So it takes about over an hour to get up to temperature. It takes a little while to get up to the temperature. Now it's going to take about an hour, hour and a half to get up to pressure. Then I have to pressure can it, keep an eye on it for an hour and 15 minutes. So this is going to take up the majority of my night. 5:36 now, so I should be done about 8:30, 9 o'clock. I need to find a better canning method, I think, because I mean, this is good and dandy. It is. It's just, it's not fast enough, and I know that it can be quicker. I know that it can be quicker. So I'm thinking probably it's going to be like one of those outside propane cooktop stove things, like what you would take camping. I don't have one, so I don't know what it's called. I'll be back with you in just a bit as we get it up to pressure. We're at 1 pound right now. 10 to go. All right, the pressure canner has come to pressure. We're right slightly under 10, so like 9.5. So we're right about there. I'm gonna go ahead and set my timer for an hour, and I'll give it 17 minutes. Now it is time to baby the thing. I wanna keep a close eye on it. I do not want the pressure to exceed 11 psi, and I do not want it to go below 10 psi. Otherwise, the entire time has to start over. The pressure canner is now done canning. What I did was turned off my hot plate, unplugged it from the wall, and allowed the canner to come all the way down from pressure. As we can see over here on the dial, it is all the way down at 0. I am now going to remove my weight, turn the pot so that I can access it better, and take the lid off. Being sure to open it away from me as it is hot. Now with my canner lid alligator thingy, I'm going to lift and pull them out, placing them on this towel, and this is where they are going to sit for the next 24 hours, well, at least 12 hours. Now I'm going to take out my divider. Quite a bit of seepage. It doesn't look like any of the jars are broken, so I guess that's good. Now tomorrow, I'm going to have to go through and hand wash the outside of each of these jars. I can see now that I need to do that. Now, because normally you don't want to mess with the lids on your jars after they've been canning, but because they have, let's call it spillover, if we will, all over them. I can't leave them overnight with this gunk on them. I can't do it. Now, like I said, these jars are going to sit overnight. In the morning, I will check to make sure each one is sealed. If any of them are not sealed, I can then recan them. However, if it turns out that 1 or 2 of them, hopefully no more, did not seal, then I'll just make them for dinner. Well, that is all that I have for today. I will see you in the morning, and we will clean these up, mark them, write on them what they are and the date, and put them away for storage. All right, it is the next day, and the jars have sat overnight for 18 hours, give or take. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is the time that I had to get to these. Early this morning, I checked my jars to see which ones sealed properly and which ones didn't. The ones on my right here did seal properly. The ones on my left here did not seal. So now what do I need to do? If it were just 1 or 2 jars, I would use that up in a week. 6 of our jars did not seal in a total of 14. So that's almost half of the jars that did not seal properly. I have a hard time running the canner when I only have 5 or 6 jars, which is why I did such a big batch. But because they did not seal, I'm gonna have to can them again because there's no way that we're gonna be able to go through the remaining 5 jars in the next week. So typically, whenever your jars do not seal, you have about a week if you keep them in the fridge to use them, and they'll still be fine. We're not going to go through that many beans in a week. It's just not possible. So I'm going to have to pull the canner back out and recan them. It's just what I'm going to have to do. The process of resealing the jars, it's recanning them, it's exactly the same. 2 inches of water in the canner, bring it up to temperature. Mine is 11 pounds of pressure, so 11 psi for an hour and 15 minutes. And I think that the reason that they did not seal properly was because I had a lot of oozing. I filled them to the exact headspace like I was supposed to, but it oozed out. And whenever it did, it corrupted the seal, making the top of the jars too oily. Therefore, it's not going to properly seal. Now, to show the difference, let's go ahead and start here. You hear that? That is sealed. Now listen to this one. You hear that? It's hollow. These did not seal. I did go ahead and label the jars that did seal. I did wipe them off so they are not sticky or oily or anything at all. These are good for storage. I can go ahead and put them in my pantry and they're going to last 18 months. They're not going to last us 18 months, but that's how long they'll last jarred in the pantry in a cool, dark space. Now, I'm not going to show you the process of me recanning the jars because it is the same, but I did want to go ahead and end this video letting you know that sometimes your canning doesn't exactly work out like you expect that it's going to. Sometimes you will have jars that will not seal. It's kind of a part of the whole process. Now, whenever it does come to resealing your jars, you have 18 to 24 hours roughly to reseal it. So what I would need to do is pop off my lids. See, and it just came out as one right here. I need to rewash the lid. I'll probably replace the lid. It's not necessary. I need to rewash the lid and re-wipe the rim with a water and vinegar solution to get off any of the oiliness and all of the food that's stuck on there. In the description below, there will be a link where I will have this recipe completely typed out. Now, like I said, I did use my canning and preservation book. It's this one, The Complete Guide to Pressure Canning. I will be leaving a link below for the book as well. We love this book. You can see from all of my little tabs here, I use it quite frequently. So I'm going to type out this recipe in my tripled, the way that I did it, and the slight changes that I did make to it, so that you can have access to that if you so choose to use the recipe that I used. But I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today and yesterday while I canned up all of these baked beans. Now real quick, let's do some fast math, okay? How long is this 13 jars going to last us? Well, if we use 1 jar of beans per week, usually we like it with like burgers or something, 1 jar per week, that's 13 weeks. So that's 3 months and a week. I was hoping to get 6 months worth of beans, but that's okay. We have about 3 months worth of beans. And it's just a really quick, easy side dish that I don't have to spend hours preparing, because if you do make baked beans from scratch, well, it takes hours. In fact, it took me all day to be able to make these. So a lot of work in the front end to not have to do any work in the long end. Does that make sense? Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. Again, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you're not already, consider subscribing to Hollow Acres. Go over, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified every time I post a video. And we'll see you next time here on Hollow Acres.